American voters will face a clear choice for president on Election Day, between Republican incumbent Donald Trump and Democratic hopeful Joe Biden. Here's a look at what they stand for and how their policies compare on 8 key issues. Let's talk about coronavirus first. President Trump set up a coronavirus task force at the end of January, which he says has now shifted its focus to safety and opening up our country. The president is also prioritizing the speedy development of coronavirus treatments and vaccines, directing $10 billion towards such projects. And Mr. Biden wants to set up a national contact tracing program, establish at least 10 testing centers in every state, and provide free coronavirus testing to all. He supports a nationwide mask mandate, which would require face coverings to be worn on federal property. Let's talk about climate change. President Trump is a climate change skeptic, and wants to expand non-renewable energy. He aims to increase drilling for oil and gas, and roll back further environmental protections. He has committed to withdrawing from the Paris Climate Accord, the international agreement on tackling climate change, which the U.S. will formally leave later this year. And Mr. Biden says he would immediately rejoin the Paris Climate Agreement if elected. He wants the U.S. to reach net zero emissions by 2050, and proposes banning new leases for oil and gas drilling on public lands, as well as a $2 trillion investment in green energy. Let's talk about economy. President Trump has pledged to create 10 million jobs in 10 months, and create 1 million new small businesses. He wants to deliver an income tax cut, and provide companies with tax credits to incentivize them to keep jobs in the U.S. And Mr. Biden wants to raise taxes for high earners to pay for investment in public services, but says the increase will only impact those earning over $400,000 a year. He supports raising the federal minimum wage to £11.50 an hour from the current rate of £7.25 £5.50. Let's talk about healthcare. President Trump wants to repeal the Affordable Care Act (ACA) passed under President Obama, which increased the federal government's regulation of the private health insurance system, including making it illegal to deny coverage for people with pre-existing medical conditions. He says he wants to improve and replace it, although no details of the plan have been published. The president also aims to lower drug prices by allowing imports of cheaper ones from abroad. And Mr. Biden wants to protect and expand the ACA. He wants to lower the eligibility age for Medicare, the policy which provides medical benefits to the elderly, from 65 to 60. He also wants to give all Americans the option to enroll in a public health insurance plan similar to Medicare. Let's talk about foreign policy. President Trump has reiterated his promise to bring down U.S. troop levels overseas, while continuing to invest in the military. The president says he will continue to challenge international alliances and maintain trade tariffs on China. And Mr. Biden has promised to repair relationships with U.S. allies. He says he would do away with unilateral tariffs on China, and instead hold them accountable with an international coalition that China can't afford to ignore. Let's talk about race and policing. President Trump says he doesn't believe racism is a systemic problem within U.S. police forces. He has positioned himself as a firm advocate of law enforcement, but has opposed chokeholds and offered grants for improved practices. Mr. Biden views racism as a systemic problem, and has set out policies to address racial disparities in the justice system, such as grants to incentivize states in reducing incarceration rates. He has rejected calls to defund police, saying additional resources should instead be tied to maintaining proper standards. Let's talk about guns. President Trump has an expansive interpretation of the U.S. Constitution's Second Amendment protections giving Americans the right to bear arms. He did propose tightening background checks on gun buyers after a string of mass shootings in 2019, but nothing came of the plan and no further legislation has been put forward. And Mr. Biden has proposed banning assault weapons, universal background checks, limiting the number of guns a person can purchase to 1 per month, and making it easier to sue negligent gun manufacturers and sellers. He would also fund more research into preventing gun violence. Let's talk about Supreme Court. President Trump says it's his constitutional right to fill the vacancy on the court during the remainder of his first term in office, and has put forward conservative Judge Amy Coney Barrett. One issue that the Supreme Court could soon rule on is the legal right to abortion in the U.S., something the President and Judge Barrett have opposed in the past. And Mr. Biden wants the vacancy to be filled after the next president enters office. He says if elected he would work to pass legislation to guarantee a woman's right to an abortion if the Supreme Court rules against it. I hope you like this video. If you like this video, please subscribe this channel for more interesting videos.